I'm Chris Farrell, and this is On Watch. Welcome to On Watch, everybody, the Judicial Watch podcast, where we go behind the headlines to cover news and information that the old legacy media really doesn't want you to know about. We try to recover some lost history and explain the inexplicable. Today, to help us explain the inexplicable, we are very fortunate to have the senator from the great state of Wisconsin, good Senator Ron Johnson, joining us here on Watch. Welcome, Senator Johnson.
Morning, Chris. Happy to be with you.
Thanks very much. Just a couple of days ago, you published a very important op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal. And with your committee assignments in finance and banking and your long history of experience when it comes to the budget process, you've raised a flag with this op-ed, and you've said that there's an ugly truth about the big, beautiful bill that the president wants. And in your opinion, it's not too beautiful of a bill. Why don't you give our viewers and listeners a little overview, a highlight of what you've written about in the Wall Street Journal?
Sure. By the way, let me first state I'm a huge supporter of President Trump. What he's done on the border, ending wokeism, what he's doing right now in the Middle East, promoting peace, huge supporter. But I just have to point out the truth about the big, beautiful bill. It's going to actually exacerbate the problem. I would think the first criteria, the first goal, the first principle of a Republican budget resolution, we should be trying to control the deficit. We should try to reduce it, but in fact, we'll probably increase it. So, I'm trying to force my colleagues in the administration to look at the forest that's on fire, rather than arguing about the twigs and leaves. So what I point out in my Wall Street Journal column, and I'm just using CBO's 10-year projection, the latest one, they project we'll spend $89.3 trillion over the next 10 years. The House bill, as it's framed right now, would increase spending on border and defense about $340 billion, supposedly cut $1.5 trillion, but a lot of those are in the out years. Some of them are fake cuts. So at most, we're cutting $1.2 trillion of spending. That's 1.3% of the $89.3 trillion. And if you do the math with all the additional tax cuts, extending current tax law versus the CBO estimate, we're probably going to add, I would say, about $4 trillion to deficits over the next 10 years, which would mean that in 10 years, the deficit won't be $59 trillion, it'll be closer to $63 trillion. So that's just the truth. We're not controlling this. We're mortgaging our children's future. I ran in 2010 when we were $14 trillion in debt. Now we're $37 trillion. We went on a massive bipartisan spending spree after COVID, or during COVID,
right,
from $4.4 trillion to $7 trillion. We haven't returned to pre-pandemic level. So I've laid out the options. I've laid out a process. Elon Musk showed us how to do it. You have to go line by line. You have to do the work. You have to take the time. So again, I want to support the president. He's doing a great job in so many different areas, but the one big, beautiful bill, I'm afraid, is it's false advertising. It's big, but it's not beautiful. It's going to actually exacerbate the problem. It's not solving it, and we need to solve this problem.
As you go through your op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal, about the first two-thirds of the article, you lay out some devastating numbers. You point out, the COVID level of spending we haven't gone back from that. We're still spending like drunken sailors. In fact, we give drunken sailors a bad name. The numbers are crazy. Your colleagues, your namesake over there in the House, in the Speaker's office, he controls this entire thing. The House is the appropriator, and he's the head guy. And so how is it that the House Republicans are not more interested in actually glomming onto and implementing all the things that Elon Musk has pointed out through his Doge process and all the points that you've made? Why is the House so reticent to actually enact the cuts? Like, for example, why are they promoting and expanding Obamacare under the name of Medicaid expansion? I mean, how is it that they don't get the message? There are a lot of cheerleaders for Trump. When it comes to actually putting the numbers into the budget, all of a sudden everybody kind of gets a little weak in the knees.
Well, first of all, it's easy to spend other people's money.
Right.
And the American public loves free federal funds. And they're just not connecting the dot. Well, that's why we had 40-year high inflation. That's why we've devalued the dollar, so tremendously. But also, I don't think they really know the numbers. I mean, most of them they're not accountants like me, okay? They don't come from the private sector. And so I'm trying to give them the numbers. 3 years ago, during one of our omnibus spending debates, I just asked my colleagues in the Senate, hey, anybody know how much we spent last year total?
No.
Nobody answered.
Nobody knew.
I went to the Washington press
Nobody knew.
asked the same question. Somebody said, well, over $1 trillion. No, that's just discretionary spending. That's about a quarter of our budget right now. 3/4 of the budget is off, mandatory spending. Nobody looks at it. It's out of control.
Yeah, it's servicing the debt is what it is.
Again, they just don't know. They don't know the numbers. So they put out some criteria. I said that they set the bar way too low. They said, well, we've got to have at least $1.5 trillion of spending cuts. I mean, sounds like a lot, right? It's paltry. It's 1.3%, and it's not even real.
Yeah,
But they hit the 1.5 trillion with fake spending cuts delayed to the out years where you'll never realize them. They claim victory. They did their job. They're not going to come under the ire of President Trump, because they're delivering that one big beautiful bill. And so now it's up to a few of us in the Senate to just point out the truth. Call it for what it is. It's false advertising. It's big again, but it's not beautiful. It's exacerbating the problem. I'm sorry. I've literally given up 15 years of my life.
I know.
To try and stop the mortgage of our children's future. It's immoral what we're doing to our children. The transfer of wealth from young to old is unconscionable, but it's politically popular. Seniors are a big voting bloc, and we just continue that outrage. At some point in time, us oldsters have to understand what we've done to our grandchildren and take it seriously.
I agree with you.
I'm not looking forward to it. This is not going to be pleasant for me. I'm sure it's not. Okay.
I agree with you 100%. So now, setting aside reality, which is a Washington, D.C. specialty, pushing reality off to the side, President Trump wanted one big, beautiful bill because he doesn't want to expend political capital fighting over a series of 6 to 8 bills, or Biden in his first year first 100 days knocked out 11 bills. He doesn't want to go through the fight, the negotiation, the horse trading, the vote by vote, win-loss. He just wants to roll it all up. And I get why. I understand the political battle. But he wants to roll it all up in one, pass it, move on, and we'll figure out the details later. That's the political reality of it, not the dollars and cents, not the actual spending and accounting. So what do you say to people that will remark and say, look, just do what the president wants. We'll figure it out later. Because that's the counter argument. That's what you're going to face.
So we do have a process here for mortgaging our children's future, and that's the process. Again, it's like the wimpy. I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for hamburger today.
Right.
That's why we're $37 trillion in debt, and why in the big beautiful bill, rather than ending up in $59 trillion in debt in 2035, we'll probably be $62 or $63 trillion in debt. So again, it's exacerbating the problem. It's a slogan. It's false advertising. And I'm calling them on it. So there's the reality. So somebody's got to do it. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We've never had a spending increase like this. It's unprecedented, except during World War II,
right,
when we had the greatest generation. And I point that in my column. Prior to the start of World War II, we were spending 11.7% of GDP. Okay, we went up to 41%. But because we had responsible leadership back then, they realized we can't keep spending at that level. So they decreased it to 11.4 by 1948. They went back to below pre-war spending. We haven't done that. We started out at 20.6, which again, that's like double where we were.
Right.
We're approaching 24%. We have a structural deficit gap of about 6% right now. We'll probably exacerbate that to 7% with the big beautiful bill. So again, at some point in time, either we get spending under control, return to a reasonable pre-pandemic level spending. Again, I've laid out the options. I've laid out how to do it. Just take a look at Clinton or Obama or Trump's 2019 spending, leave Social Security, Medicare, and interest alone, grow all those other actual outlays. By population growth inflation, we'd be talking somewhere between 5.5 and 6.5. 5.5, we'd basically have a balanced budget. Now, that was Clinton's 1998, before 9/11, so you'd probably have to plus up defense and veterans benefits. But again, that would be a reasonable baseline to start the discussions from, as opposed to more than $7 trillion and then throw in the towel. Well, we can't cut that, can't cut that, can't cut that. Well, we'll tweak this one a little bit. We'll put all the savings out in the future years so we don't feel the pain right now. So nobody can complain, nobody can lie about us, and we're not even willing to engage in the debate.
Well, they'll lie anyway. That's part of the deal. Well, let me ask you. So you come out with this Wall Street Journal article. You lay it all out. It's black and white. It's just it's math. Take all the emotion, all the adrenaline out of it. You're just doing math. You're laying out the consequences for this crazed spending. So, how many phone calls from either the White House or the Speaker's office saying, Senator Johnson, what the hell are you doing?
Well, listen, I met with the president twice with the Budget Committee and the Finance Committee. I laid these numbers out for him in pre-pandemic level spending. He loved it. So I love this. The House is going to love this. So has it been presented to the House? I said, well, not yet. Mr. President, why don't you and I go and we'll present this?
Yeah, I mean, the two of you should go arm in arm and go see Speaker Johnson and have a little seance together.
Yeah, my demands have been a return to a reasonable pre-pandemic level spending. I haven't said an absolute number. I know we have to get the votes for it. But more importantly, a process to achieve and maintain it. And again, that's where Elon Musk and the brilliant Doge effort between Elon Musk and Trump, now we see how to do it. Again, we've never had a process to control government spending, right? We don't have a budget balance requirement. I didn't realize the appropriation committees were actually established because the authorizing committees were big spenders. So it was the appropriation committee was going to be the control on spending. That didn't work.
That was supposed to rein it in, but it did not work. You're correct.
So we've never had a process. The only process I can imagine is going to work is literally scrutinizing every line of the budget. And yeah, it's going to take time. It's going to take work. It's going to take the Doge crew, people like that, coming on over and helping out. We don't have the congressional staff. We don't have access to the information. We can set up the process. So again, that's why I recommended in my second in a series of articles in the Wall Street Journal is a budget review panel, serious senators with serious House members, with Russ Vought and his team at OMB. We're the budget review panel. Then you get the department heads with their budget, come on up and justify every line and every subline of your budget. If you do that, listen, $7,000 billion a year, there's got to be hundreds of billions of dollars within there that if you didn't spend it, nobody would even know other than the people in on the grift. So,
everything you're saying makes perfect sense. What's going to happen?
Well, if I have my druthers, we slow this process down. We revert to a multiple step process, give the border funding, defense, bank $850 billion. Let's not waste the effort of the House. They've identified some real savings cuts. Let's bank those. Let's enjoy those. Extend the current tax law so we take an automatic tax increase off the table. That brings certainty to the economy. Make sure we don't default. I will increase it. I've never voted for an increase to debt limit, but I'll vote for one to make sure we don't default, but not a big one. Something to keep the pressure on so that we come back for the big, beautiful bill, which is the complex bill of trying to simplify and rationalize our tax code. Anything we do ought to be promoting growth, simplify the tax code, should be focused on the working men and women of this country. And then, also go line by line, take the time then to scrutinize spending and expose it. And then don't spend it, reduce it.
And Speaker Johnson and the appropriators in the House, any feedback, well, Senator, that's a great idea, but, or yes, let's meet next week and do it. I mean, what's...
Yeah, well, after my second column where I was laying out that budget review panel, the Senate Majority Leader's all for it. I had the Speaker and the Majority Leader of the House on the phone. They were all for it. We were talking about who the members ought to be. They sent me a phone call with their key budget staff the next day, and the key budget staff said, we've been working on this for a year. We're comfortable with where we're at. We don't have the time to do this. which is pretty much the response out of OMB too. They don't have the time to do it. So, okay, well, let's take the time. So when I proposed to Senate leadership to go back to the multiples, and by the way, that's John Thune's idea. He was right. We should have taken this in steps. When I say, well, let's go back to that, we've got a Senate budget resolution. Let's pass the reconciliation bill for that. And I get the response, well, that ship has sailed. To which I respond, well, let's call it back to port, because I think the ship that the big, beautiful bill's on, I think that's called the Titanic. I think that's going down.
Yeah.
Again, I think I have enough support in the Senate that we're not going to support what the House has done. Again, I appreciate their efforts, but it exacerbates the problem. It doesn't fix it.
Well, the big tiebreaker on this is a guy named Donald Trump, because if he picks up the phone and calls people or summons them to the White House and says, I want you to do A, B, and C, guess what's going to happen? They're all going to do A, B, and C, even if they hate it, even if they don't like it, because he's the only guy with enough horsepower to make it happen. So I wish that I know he's busy overseas right now, but that what you're proposing and what you're saying clearly is a very by the numbers, it's math, take all the spin and jazz off of it. You're just doing math and trying to get to a reasonable number. And all the folks that are saying, I'm too busy, I've already done it, leave me alone, go away. The only guy that can change that is Donald Trump. So I hope that there's a way to communicate that. And because he doesn't want to lose the idea of one beautiful bill, right? He doesn't, anything less than that, any concession that doesn't have one big beautiful bill, he's going to view as a loss. He doesn't like losing. It's not going to happen. So the only thing to do is to force people to enact what you're proposing and still do it in one big beautiful bill.
So I will remind him that repeal and replace Obamacare was one big beautiful bill that didn't fail because John McCain did a thumbs up down. It was an awful bill. It wasn't worth passing either. That was not going to pass the Senate.
Yeah.
So again, that approach didn't work in the first Trump term. And by the way, I had to say no on the Tax Cut and Jobs Act as well, because the president just wanted a 20% tax rate for C Corps, and the other 95% of American businesses, the pass-throughs, were going to get completely hosed and left behind, unable to compete with the big C Corps. And I'm the guy that had to dig my heels in and say no. And I got the snarly phone calls in the middle, 10 o'clock at night from the Oval Office. I got the scorn of Wisconsin talk radio.
Right.
But in the end, everybody sings my praises for really fixing that bill. So again, I'm trying to fix this one as well.
It's tough. It's tough being the adult in the room when everyone's giving out free goodies, and you're there saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" There's a limit. So I admire your tenacity, and I admire you doing the tough math and pointing things out that are unpleasant and inconvenient. I just hope that. I hope that we get there. I hope that people take the long view and realize that we can't keep borrowing money from the Chinese to, service the debt and go down the path that we've been on for so long. And we need to not continue to do things like have Republicans pump up Obamacare, which sounds like insanity to anybody.
That's part of this too. But listen, I appreciate the opportunity. I think the good news is I've gone on a lot of these types of programs. And again, I'm a big supporter of Trump. The hosts are big supporters of Trump. Nobody has disagreed with me. Nobody in my conference can disagree with me. They may be looking at their shoes, turn around and throw in the towel right away, but nobody can dispute this logic. And I think that, again, I've been with the president. He loved it. He agreed with it. So we need to figure out a way of implementing. Again, I want to see him succeed. I don't want to be going up against him, okay? I don't like having to be the guy that says this isn't quite so beautiful, okay?
I get it very well. Senator Ron Johnson, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time to explain the background and the inner workings behind your column in the Wall Street Journal, The Ugly Truth About the Big Beautiful Bill. Senator, we appreciate your time. Thanks very much for joining us.
Have a great day.
I'm Chris Farrell, on watch.